Welcome to the Secure Connections podcast, brought to you by IOTA, the Internet of Things Security Services Association. I'm Brian Sherman, Content Director for IOTA, and joining me today for some of the latest industry research is our friend Carolyn April, Director of Industry Analysis for CompTIA. Welcome to the Secure Connections podcast, Carolyn.
Hey, Brian. So happy to be here.
It's good. I'm glad to have you today. It's been a while since we last chatted.
Yes. Indeed. Maybe a while more.
It may be a while more in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. We're operating from home, which is you're usually a remote worker anyway, so it's probably pretty comfortable.
That's true. That working from home has not been an adjustment for me, but I sympathize and empathize with all those who don't like that kind of setup, and it's life is weird. Life is weird. Like, let's be honest. I don't live in front of a beach either. This is,
Yeah, hey, we have fun with screens. That's a nice part for those that are watching the video part. Yeah, we get to have some fun in between. It sure beats, looking behind me at my wall or my window.
Yeah, true that. I'm behind a window typically as well. So, but it's really nice to be here, and I'm happy to chat about whatever you want to chat about today.
Good. Well, how is first off, I always like to start, especially now, how you and your family are coping during the pandemic.
Thank you so much for asking. We're doing fine health-wise, so that's what I most care about. A little stir craziness, being able to go out and do your errands. And I do have a daughter who's a senior in high school, she's having to miss out on a lot of that end of your high school experience stuff. But she's bucked up. She's doing fine, and so we're all hanging in there. Everyone has their jobs so far. So how about you?
Awesome. Competing with bandwidth with my my junior at college, but other than that,
that's to be expected, right? Yeah, I think everyone's struggling with that. It's like all these extra people in their life are on their networks now, and
yeah, I was just on a panel discussion with MSPs, and they were chatting about, having to adjust their support hours to compensate for the work at home people who are also trying to educate their kids during the day while they were doing that. And I'm feeling very lucky.
I feel very lucky that I don't have elementary age children, and I have friends who do, or even daycare age, and I have many friends who do, and they're juggling like crazy. That's nuts. My daughter is taking remote classes right now to finish her high school year. Mm-hmm. But it's not like I don't need to be involved in that. She's very good at dealing with that. But if you have a 7-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old, oh my goodness.
Yeah, my niece is tearing her hair out right now, looking for substitute teachers. So I'm sure that would be.
The big winners out of this are going to be teachers, because everyone's going to be like, "Wow, we should be paying you way more money." Wow.
Exactly. Well, teachers and tech companies too, because I think the MSPs are realizing that they're pretty vital now.
Yeah, I agree.
They've been deemed essential services, so I keep reminding them that. Remember that after we
I agree.
Get through this.
Putting people on contracts and being in charge of their IT infrastructure and everything else that goes with that, it puts you in a pretty good position. I'm trying to take a positive position, optimistic on this.
Yeah, I think we have to. There's serious things going on in the world, but we also have to focus on the things that are important, and family's one of them. But we need to help people get through work too. And so let's take a step back to CompTIA and the CompTIA research team. Can you tell us a little about what have you been working on over the last few months? And
Sure. I just finished, and I know we're going to talk about this a little bit, my annual study on the trends in managed services. And I think that would be great to talk about for your audience. The way that the research team breaks down, for those who do not know that, are, there's a few of us, and we each are in our own little areas. And I focus mainly on IT channel trends and things that are happening in the MSP community and things that are happening in the channel at large, and industry business related issues. My colleague, Seth Robinson, is very technology specific. So he's an engineer and he knows a lot more about technology stuff than I do. And so he focuses there. And then the big guy, Tim Herbert, our boss and colleague, focuses on workforce issues, industry issues, but you name it. And so over the course of a year, we have a wide variety of research that goes out there. And I typically focus, as I said, on channel trends. So I've got the MSP study. I typically do a state of the channel study. I am planning to do one this year on partner experience, which is a new one for us. Last year I did one on customer experience. Seth will focus a lot on, he just finished a data study, very interesting data study. If you have a chance to read it, it's worth the read. It's very good. And then he'll be working on a cloud study, which is one of the annual ones that we do. So it's sort of a broad range. And, and we've also, because CompTIA has brought into the fold IT pros as opposed to just industry people. So this is just people who work as an IT professional, but not necessarily in the IT industry or the channel or as with a vendor. So there's a lot of issues specific to them with certification and workforce related issues that we are now beginning to focus on a lot as well.
Very good. And for those that have been to one of IOTSA's live events too, CompTIA is a research partner for IOTSA and has put together some really special things around IoT and cybersecurity for us as well. So as a matter of fact, while our live events are on hiatus for the moment, along with everybody else's, we will have a Beyond the Curve webcast series starting next month, and CompTIA will be involved in that too. So we're looking forward to that.
That's great.
Awesome. So you mentioned previously you have a hot off the presses research study, trends in managed services. So what are some of the high level takeaways in this study, Carolyn?
It was an interesting study. I think and especially for your audience, is that there's a few things that we want to point out. And one is security. Security is obviously a table stakes, but a lot of MSPs in this study are stepping up their game and getting far more granular and specific in their expertise around security so that they can even begin to call themselves an MSSP, which is an acronym that always gives me trouble. But so that's one of the trends that we're seeing, is that their MSPs today are recognizing security as an additional opportunity area beyond, obviously, they have to, if you're just a regular MSP, you have to offer antivirus and firewall and all of those sort of things along with your services, but to take it to the next level and become someone who's specialized in it. The other thing I would point out is that in terms of the emerging tech area, is that a lot of MSPs now are finding that there is good opportunity in the IoT space to be a managed IoT provider. And I personally think that's a very natural position for a lot of MSPs, because I talk about it as a sort of an on-ramp. There's three things. And the first step to getting into IoT is hardware. So we already do hardware, a lot of MSPs. And so it's installing the sensors and then managing them. And that's the second step. And then the third step would be to do, and this is taking it to the next level, and it's where you're going to really make your money, is to do the data analytics that come around all of the information collection that's going on with those sensors in the various institutions where you've deployed them. And so for MSPs in the IoT space who can get to that level and take, not just manage and troubleshoot and make sure the hardware is running, but actually collect the data and then provide some sort of prescriptive advice to their customers to help them know what's coming up along the horizon, or what is the best thing for them to be doing in Q2, Q3, Q4 is going to be where a lot of these MSPs can differentiate themselves.
Right. When we talk about IoT at IOTSA too, I know we've focused on the unsecured endpoint part of it. I'm not sure if that falls in the management side or the hardware side, or it's kind of
I think it crosses all of them. I mean, when it comes to security is sort of an umbrella that has to go on anything. I don't even think you should approach a customer with whatever you're selling, service or product, without actually then also having a security discussion. It just goes hand in hand that you have to be doing that.
Right. Well, especially today with everybody working from home, it's kind of taken on some extra prominence. So, but IoT, what do you see as far as, and I know that's been a long discussion with the channel, is are you seeing more and more channel involvement? Is it one that's like very specialized MSPs? I don't know if you've looked that granular at that in the study.
No, we actually we teased this out in the survey that we did for this study, and we're seeing an uptick. So we asked, we provided a laundry list of emerging technologies and asked which you're involved in, or at least thinking of being involved in. Mm-hmm. And I can break that out if you want, but IoT is number one. And, IoT understandably is more mature as an emerging tech than something like AI or VR or drones or some of the other categories that we had. But it's definitely, like I said, I think that it's an easy on-ramp for a lot of solution providers today and MSPs to get involved with. And it makes sense for many of them to get involved with. And they may not have to retrain, rehire, and hire new people and develop skill sets that they didn't have in-house already. Whereas some of the other emerging techs, you're going to have to go out there and find people that already know these skills. You're going to have to retrain your people. And that's been a very big challenge for a lot of solution providers, as you know, and it's going to be a bigger one right now with what's going on.
What are you seeing as far as vendor support in the IoT specific space right now? Is that maturing? Because it seems like that's going to be where a lot of the, say, partnership opportunities are for the MSP community and the IT service community.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a tough question, because I think there are some very IoT specific vendors. Mm-hmm. And their issue is they don't have an indirect channel yet, because they're not mature enough that they've built one. And so as they want to grow, they're going to figure out, and this is true of a lot of cloud companies as well, but as they just, expand and want to grow, they're going to figure out that their direct sales force is not large enough to support the growth that they want to pursue. And so they got to build an indirect channel. So they're in that boat. Then you have the entrenched vendors, traditional vendors, who already have a very large indirect channel, so they know how to run a partner program. But adding a new emerging technology can be a challenge for them, and so then downstream it becomes a training issue and a resources issue for their channel partners as well. So I can't give it a grade right now. I think it's I think we're in a transition phase.
Yeah, and we've seen that, I think, even at the industry events. I know at ChannelCon last year, I talked to a couple of IoT companies that were exploring. They were there to explore and see how the fit would be within the channel. And we've got a few, though. There's a few people that we all know from their channel experience that have gone over to IoT companies. So I'm optimistic that we're starting to see the program, especially in transportation, like semis right now. It's got to be huge, because they're trying to track them everywhere. And that's the only thing moving in the country right now is semis.
The only thing moving. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting. But thanks for your perspective on the IoT. Let's take a step back to cybersecurity, because that's what many of our audience is tuned in for a lot. What are you seeing as far as the advances and the advanced technologies being offered? For example, I saw there was one stat: 87% of the respondents either built, operate, or use a third-party SOC, a security operations center, which I thought was a pretty phenomenal number from where it was maybe a couple of years ago.
And those are chiefly the ones who identify as managed services, security services providers, so MSSPs, which is a special category. I think we need to do a better job of having that. Having specific standards for you to be able to slap that label on yourself. Yeah. But most of those who are serious about it are either developing their own SOC or working with a third party, as you just mentioned. So, and that's important, I think. But I think security is going to be the biggest opportunity area. What our study found with MSPs is that the number one thing that they considered is going to be a big revenue driver for them in the coming 2 years is anything related to cybersecurity.
Mm-hmm. I know we see a lot of and that's a continual discussion, MSSP versus MSP.
It is. We could do a debate.
We need a few more acronyms, in there too. But because I know within our community, I think a lot of people have firm people believing you must have a SOC. You must have remedial services. penetration testing, all the advanced things that we talked
Yep.
about, not the typical, the firewall and others that are important, but they have to have kind of those standards. And I guess my question, are you seeing more companies doing that pure play security? Then is that segment growing, while there's MSPs in many cases are just aligning themselves and partnering with those companies to provide the advanced services while they do the basics?
We don't see a huge uptick in pure play at all. We don't. Most, and this is typical of this business model in general, is that, hybrid is the nature. So, MSPs today will just be adding more critical security services, more sophisticated security services. They may slap an MSSP label on themselves, but they're still doing all the stuff they already did. So they're not becoming a pure play. Yeah. Now, there's definitely a niche of people who are entering the market as pure plays, but I think what it is more about traditional MSPs, if you will, elevating their game in the security area and then enabling themselves to slap that label on them.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I think there's a lot of partnering going on, but there's also, I think, some opportunity for MSSPs, the traditional, all-encompassing security professionals.
All in security, yep.
Yeah, and even, we're even seeing some of the, I won't say vendors, but distributors and others that are building their own model similar to that to be able to offer to their partners. So it's
well, we see a lot of partnering. We see a lot of partnering going on in the industry now, and you and I have been in the industry a while. Mm-hmm. We won't date ourselves, but
a year or two,
just a couple years, yeah. But we have seen. So we've been talking. My point was we've been talking about partner to partner partnering for decades, really, to be honest. And it's never really taken off. And a lot of vendors have tried to encourage it. They've built programs around it. Microsoft is one that comes to mind. But what we're seeing in our research today is that partnering with other partners is starting to take off. Solution providers are realizing that the level of complexity in today's technology, including security, is too much for one small company to be able to offer, or and have the right. So they're learning that, hey, I'm going to partner with the guy or woman down the street, and they're really good at this, and we're really good at this, and we're going to go to market together, or and they're working things out in a way that I find. The data shows that it's amazing. We've asked partnering questions on 3 different iterations of our State of the Channel study, and this year the number of the degree to which people are partnering spiked. It spiked. People are realizing I can't hire anybody right now, so and I'm going to partner with someone. Yeah. I don't know application development. I'm really good at selling hardware and infrastructure, and so they have to make an organic choice whether they want to build or buy. And a lot of them are choosing to partner.
I'd be interested to see what's happening over the last 3-4 weeks on the partnering side too, because just from the MSPs I've talked to, I had a discussion this morning with one that has a pretty distributed client base in different states, and he has critical businesses he's supporting that cannot close, but he does not want to send techs. He can't send techs at a larger distance to do it. So he's creating some new partnerships in order to do this through his distributor, through his peer networks. And it'd be an interesting case study, I think, afterwards to figure out.
No, that's a good one. And, one of the things that we recommend during downtimes, like right now, we're in a very scary time where business all of a sudden is, what do you do? Is I know most companies, stop hiring, stop doing marketing, and they pull back on a lot of things. But the savvier companies who typically emerge, and we saw this in 2008 and 2009 after that recession, that the savvier companies that emerge intact, typically they might not be doing huge investment, but they still continue as they can to make investments, do new initiatives, including partnering, like we're talking about right now. Trying to continue to be innovative is the bottom line, so that when we get to put our head above water again, it's not, they're okay. They're okay.
Yeah, the good news is with some of the stimulus programs and that they hopefully will have access to additional resources too. So
Yeah.
financially on the MSP side, most are very optimistic I've talked to because
Oh,
in many cases, they've already got clients that are distributed and they've set them up in mobile workforces. Others realize that they have some work to do afterwards
mhm.
too. So but they're encouraged. They're building plans, but they
Okay.
don't know exactly what plans to build and when the timeline would be. That's the
Yeah.
bigger question for
Yeah,
everybody.
that's a bigger question. We don't know if this is a month more of this
Yeah.
or more than a month, so it's
Yeah.
really hard to, it's very difficult to predict whether this is short term or long term.
Right. So you covered cybersecurity and IoT. What other interesting trends did you uncover in this study?
Um, MSPs are still foundationally sound in terms of the traditional infrastructure that they offer. I mean,
Mhm.
that's still the bread and butter for most MSPs is network infrastructure, device management, and so it's not sexy. I know that, but it is the reality, and I don't think that that's a bad thing. But that was one of the big takeaways: is like this is where we're still making most of our money, and I do not think that that is a bad thing. So that was again, that was one of the other takeaways. And yet, they're very aspirational about getting into new markets and getting into new technologies. So you see one foot staying in the more traditional zone, and the other looking forward to getting into some of the things they think are going to be for the future.
Makes sense. Are you seeing much, and I don't know if this study looked at it, but maybe in some of the other studies too, co-managed IT? We've talked about it. I'm hearing a little more about it, that some of the opportunities through this situation, realizing that there are some gaps with, on-site IT
Mhm.
staff. MSPs are looking at this to go, okay, what can I do to help you supplement what's going on, and hoping that, long term that might provide opportunities. Either way, they're supporting their clients now with what their needs are,
Mhm.
but they're seeing some options long term to where they may be able to get additional work. I'm
Yeah.
just wondering if you're seeing trends in that space for.
We haven't done any actual data collection on that,
Mhm.
but anecdotally, I will say I do see that as something that's going to be a new model going forward for a lot of companies. Internal IT staffs, they want to work on strategic projects. They have bringing in a third party outside firm to work on more tactical issues within their IT, and then doing it in a co-managed approach is definitely. I think that's a business model for the future and how we
Yeah.
run our IT. I do.
Yep, that makes sense. Now, obviously, when you did this research and other research at CompTIA, it was before the current pandemic.
Yeah.
How do you see the current situation affecting some of the trends that are in this report? Realistically, we know there may be some lag, but what are your thoughts?
We're all sort of in a holding pattern, which is so it's difficult to predict how things are going to go. I think MSPs, to be honest, are in, and this is just my opinion, but I think they're in a relatively better position than some other providers out there. They have their customers on contract. Um, they could be providing, different provisions and whatever within the contract to help their customers out but um, I think for them, their customers need them right now to help them continue to run their business and run their technology. So that's a good position. As far as the industry as a whole and where we're going, given the thing that we're going through right now, I think it's really going to come down to how long this goes on. I
Mhm.
mean, I really do. It's hard for. I mean, I don't have a crystal ball. I have no idea. I think there's going to be some opportunity around setting people up for remote work, and I
Mhm.
think that this period of time where everyone's home working is going to change how some companies view remote work. There are still companies out there that are, you have to go to the headquarters, period, 5 days a week. It's just the way it is. I think this when they realize, wow, we were able to keep the lights on and stay up and running the entire during, they go, oh, maybe my employees can stay home and I don't have to pay this exorbitant fee for rent for a giant office, And so
Yeah.
I think there can be some major changes that come about because of that phenomenon. As someone who's worked from home for 22 years, most of my career, once I stopped writing for newspapers and had to go to the newspaper place, uh, I really think that those bosses who have been reluctant, and managers and CEOs, to see the benefits of remote work may change their mind. So maybe that's going to be an upside. Trying to find some upsides here.
I'm thinking VoIP would be a good one for sure these days. Yeah. I can't imagine that, VoIP is everywhere all of a sudden. That's going to be a good trend.
Oh yeah, no, and there's opportunity, for helping people set up. I think the telecom providers are actually going to benefit from this, and that's been an industry that's been flagging a little bit. So, they've got to keep the bandwidth going for everybody, and so I think it's going to change our industry. But again, I go back to how long the duration of this crisis is. I mean, if this thing resolves itself in a month, I think we probably all go back to normal. If it drags on till later in the year, I think there'll be fundamental changes in the way we all conduct business.
Yeah. Well, and I think that we've seen predictions that we may have somewhat of a recurrence later on, a second wave too, if things aren't able to go the right way. But no, and I'm even some flexibility. I was talking to Guy Barone. He's in New Jersey area. I don't know if you know Guy. He's an MSP. He was talking about he's spending a lot of time just talking about the financial incentive issue or opportunities for his clients, because he was talking to clients that were going to drop half of their staff. And he's like, hold on a minute. And he walked them through. He's consulting on PPE.
He's becoming a consultant on like stimulus opportunities and things that you might know that are out there. Yeah.
So
good for him. That's what? Good for him.
It's an altruistic thing because he's helping them, but in the same front, if they're doing well financially, it's going to help him financially long term too. That's not why he's doing it, but these are the consulting things that make an MSP even more valuable.
No, it's critical. Relationship building and maintaining is so critical. And as an MSP, now is your opportunity to be reaching out to your clients and asking them what's going on with them, and being a human being, and all of that pays off in the long run, because when things go back to quote unquote normal, those customers are going to remember you, that you called on them, that you cared about the state of their business. You weren't trying to sell them anything in the meantime, but you were really just, checking in. And I think that is going to be crucial for those MSPs going forward, is, just do the right thing,
Just be a human. That's a good thing. That's a good thing.
Human.
So for those that are listening too, how do they find the Trends in Managed Services report? That's a crucial thing we don't want to forget about.
Yes, you can find that on our website, CompTIA.org, and there is a resources menu button, and you go there, and it's where all our research is, and you can easily find it that way.
Very good. Yeah,
or you can just email me, capril@CompTIA.org, and I'm happy to send you a link anytime.
That's a good short way of doing it too.
It is, and it keeps me busy. I'll just send my reports out, so it's fine.
Awesome. Any final thoughts you'd like to share with our listeners before we sign off today, Carolyn?
Really, I honestly, at this point in time, I just want everyone to stay safe, stay healthy, wish everyone's family well, pets, everybody, just everybody stay safe and healthy, and connect with one another. One thing that I think this horrific situation has done for a lot of people, myself included, is made me pick up the phone and call people I haven't talked to in a really long time, and reconnect. And if there's maybe one great thing that comes out of that, it's reconnecting with people and making sure everyone's okay. And it's been meaningful to me to talk to people like that, and I hope that's going on with everybody.
Yeah, or you can play virtual poker with large crews and virtual happy hour. There's all sorts of things.
I'm all for virtual happy hour. Trust me, and all that. And I've watched more movies than I have in a really long time. So
that's not a bad. Netflix has got to be doing really well right now.
I wish I had stock in Netflix. I really do, but
yeah. Awesome. Well, on behalf of IOTA, I'd like to thank Carolyn April from CompTIA for joining us today and sharing the latest Trends in Managed Services report info, as well as all the other great research that CompTIA has available too. To all of our listeners, please have a safe and enjoyable day, and be sure to tune in weekly for more Secure Connections podcasts. Thank you.